Hello, it's Friday, November 13th, and today we're looking at the book of Philemon together. I think it'd be good for you to take some time and read Philemon on your own. I've got a link to the passage in the description of this video if you'd like to do your reading online. Now, to talk about the book of Philemon, we probably got to spend a little time talking about what in the world is going on in the book of Philemon. So Philemon is a letter written by Paul, the early Christian missionary and leader, to a man named Philemon. Philemon is a Christian living in the city of Colossae. Yesterday we read from a different letter that Paul wrote to the church in this city, to the Colossian Christians. And so Paul is writing to Philemon. Paul is a prisoner at this point, and he's writing to Philemon about a man named Onesimus. Onesimus is a slave, and Philemon is Onesimus's master. And it's not 100% clear what's gone on here, but somehow, someway, Onesimus has done something to get on the wrong side of Philemon. Maybe he's run away, maybe he's stolen something from Philemon, maybe it's some kind of combination of those things. In any way, Onesimus has been in trouble. He's been separated from Philemon. He hasn't been with him. Instead, he's been with Paul. And during this time that Onesimus has been with Paul, Paul has been talking with him, working with him, and Onesimus has come to faith in Christ. And so Paul is sending Onesimus back to Philemon, to Onesimus's master, with this letter. And what Paul seems to be asking Philemon to do is to forgive Onesimus and to accept him as his brother in Christ. What Paul is saying is that even though in societal terms you are our slave and master, in Christ you are brothers. In your relationship with Christ, you're equal. This distinction does not matter in terms of your standing with Christ, your access to God through Jesus. And so you are called to love each other, to support each other, to forgive each other. And so that means that Philemon should be willing to show love and mercy and grace to Onesimus, because Paul says that there's been this change. Onesimus has come to believe in Christ. He's repented. He's turned from his sins to Jesus. And Paul says to Philemon, you must accept Onesimus. That's what you should do. And so what this is saying to us is a similar thing, is that in Christ we become brothers and sisters. That the distinctions between, rich and poor, distinctions between people of different ethnicities, distinction of people between different genders. It's not that those things are unimportant for our lives, but they don't affect our standing with Christ. Even though we may seem to be unequal in the eyes of the world, we are on the same level in Jesus when it comes to our relationship with Jesus. That we treat each other with love, we treat each other with respect, we treat each other with grace and mercy, like Jesus has done to us. Now, this does raise some troubling questions, maybe for us. For us as modern readers, we look at this and say, but Onesimus is a slave. Shouldn't more be done about this? Shouldn't Paul be demanding that Philemon free his slave? And yeah, that's a good question. It's possible that part of what Paul is asking Philemon to do is to release Onesimus. It doesn't seem to be the case. It's possible. But another thing we need to realize is that the context is maybe a little different than we're thinking. There are places where the Bible specifically speaks very clearly against slave trade and forced slavery. The idea that someone would be forced into slavery because of their race, their ethnicity, their nationality, like the slavery that existed in the United States a while back. That kind of thing is clearly condemned by the Bible. God makes it very clear that he does not approve at all of people being forced into slavery. What's going on in the case of somebody like Onesimus is he is probably what we'd call maybe an economic slave. That he's become so poor that he can't pay his debts, and what he's done is sort of hired himself out, gone into this slavery, this servitude, so that he can try to pay off his debt and try to live. And this is tolerated in the Bible. God again makes it clear that this is not really what he wants. In the Old Testament, there are laws about this, that yes, this can happen, but here are all these protections for slaves. Here are all these ways that they can earn their freedom eventually. And again, what Paul is saying is Onesimus needs to be treated as not just a fellow human being, but as a brother in Christ, a fellow Christian, somebody who stands with you, next to you, on equal footing with you in God's people. And so, yes, God is opposed to slavery. Very clearly he is in the Bible. Now there are times and places like in the book of Philemon where God has Paul write within the context of this, but again, not to support slavery, but to challenge it, to say that this doesn't affect our relationship with Christ, and to say that God breaks down these social differences in giving us all access to him through Jesus Christ. So for us, the challenge is to love one another, to accept one another, to see each other as brothers and sisters, to treat each other the way that God has treated us, with calls to live holy lives, but with love and patience and grace as well. So those are my thoughts with today's reading. A little more complicated explanation today. If you have thoughts or questions, please feel free to leave those in the comments or get a hold of me some other way, and I'll get back to you. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.